Here's a video of one side of my MST memory quilt. I'm going to take a quick overview and then I'm going to zoom in and show you the different squares. The first square on the top row is from Esty. She was the principal the year I first went to MST. The next square is from Aurora. She's one of the 4th grade teachers and she thanks me for being a champion for the children. Jessica, my teaching partner, did quite a few squares. She's the one who put everything together. So she is very creative and she did the 35-year square. The next square makes me laugh every time I look at it. It was done by Matthew Gibbons, who was one of our principals. And when he was a principal, he and the assistant principal had a fun group called Root Canal, where they pretended they were English rock singers. So he says, if we're not rocking, then we will be reading. The last square on this row is from Shelley, who's one of my good friends. She's one of the ESL teachers. Now, I'm going to zoom down to the next row. And Tanya Cabrera, who is one of the 3rd grade teachers, wrote about the beach for me. The next square is from Stephanie Yeager. She's our instructional specialist, and she and I talked about books we read. We had offices next door to each other, and we always were talking about which book we were reading and recommending books to each other. The Google Square was done by Kate Abear, who's our technology specialist, and Kate was always helping me with some sort of technology. She probably had to help me with every one of the things, the logos of the things that she has there. Another square from Jessica. We were always having to implement something as reading specialists. Reading programs or dyslexia programs, and we always had to do it with fidelity. The last square on this row is from Erin Price. She's a young 2nd grade teacher. She and I did a lot of things together. She was always willing to do a project that I came up with. I really enjoyed working with her. Now we're down to the 3rd row, and this square was hand painted by Nancy Pennington, the school secretary. And next to it is a square done by Carla Brock, who's one of the 3rd grade teachers. Morgan Cave, who's a 5th grade teacher. She and I loved Miss Pigglewiggle. We often talked about reading Miss Pigglewiggle, and she always read Miss Pigglewiggle books to her students. So she told me that she had this commissioned by someone. I'm not sure the details of all that, but I really like it. The next square was done by Jennifer Romes, who's one of the 4th grade teachers. And the last square on this row is a very nice quote that Sarah Claiborne, who's one of the 2nd grade teachers, she found and wrote for me. I really like that. We're down to the next row, which is a square done by Rachel Lewis, who was a new teacher, and I was pleased that she remembered that I brought her an apple the first day of school. This square was done by one of the 4th grade teachers. And in the very middle, I think the lady who put the quilt together used her machine embroidery to do the center square. Lindley McClendon, one of the 3rd grade teachers, did the next square, Sail Away With Me. And Jessica did another square, Keep Calm and Enjoy Retirement. The next row, let's see if I can get level here. Janet Fulbright, one of the kindergarten teachers that I've worked with for a long time, did that one. Jennifer Wills, who doesn't work at MST, but she was another reading specialist. She and I became friends. We sat together at a lot of meetings, and she did a really cute square for me. This next square was done by Lydia Stevens, and the little shiny sequin-like thing in the middle of the Texas square is done by bedazzling, and Lydia bedazzled everything. So it's appropriate that she put a bead from bedazzling on the square she made for me. The second grade did the square, and their signatures are there, but you can't really see them very well. The ink didn't come off very dark. And then Jessica, bless her heart, came up with another square for me, an acronym for Carol. Now we're down to the last square on this row. Lindsay Murphy, who's one of the third grade teachers, had her whole class sign the square. And Jessica came up with another one. She did a really creative job with her thank you. Wendy Foster is one of the kindergarten teachers, and she did a square for me. Chris Gilley is our Materials Center aide. She's a friend to everyone, and she wrote something really cute about how the kids sometimes call her Miss Gallman. They got Gilley and Gallman mixed up sometimes. And then the last square on the front, Oh, the Places You'll Go, was done by Kim Terry, who's one of the 6th grade teachers. Now I'll turn it over and show you the other side. Here's an overview of the back side of the quilt. And now I'll zoom in and show you what the different squares look like. The first square was done by Cynthia Abdu, who's one of our special ed teachers, and next the flower pot was done by Judy Boone, one of the 4th grade teachers. Then a square done by Candy Paytak, a kindergarten teacher. And next to that, a sweet message from Carol Johnson, who is the Director of English Language Arts in the school district. And it was really nice that she took the time to make a square for me. And the last square on this row was done by Rashonda, who's one of the special ed teachers at MST. Sina Roberts, who's a speech teacher that I worked with for a long time, made a square that says, "We will miss you." This next square was done by Jerry Sudar. She retired a year ago, and they were able to mail her the fabric, and she did a square for me, wishing me the best on retirement. Keep Calm, I'm Retired was done by Sarah Larkin, one of our art teachers. And Nola Dean, who's one of the aides, told me about growing where I'm planted. And then this last square was done by one of the special ed aides, the last square on the second row. I was always the gardener at MST. I planted flowers, or sometimes I put a pot on the front porch and watered it. So Jim Ann and Gloria, who were in the front office, did a gardening square for me. The next square, Wishing Me Happy Retirement, was done by Kathleen McClellan. She's one of our district people, one of the cluster specialists. Next is a sweet message from Emily Gruniger, who is the assistant principal at MST. Next to that is a square drawn by the very artistic Kinder Akridge, who is one of the special ed teachers. And the last square on this row was done by Christina Wright, who is one of the ESL teachers. Down to the next row, Helen Panzera, one of the kindergarten teachers, did a cute square for me. Angela Vaughn was our principal for a few years. She just left last year to take a promotion, and she wrote a sweet message about me being the reading tour guide. Next is another square with my name done on it. The woman Tammy Shaw is from Louisiana, and she has fleur-de-lis necklaces and rings and bracelets and shirts, so it's very appropriate that she did a fleur-de-lis for me, because when I see one, I will think of Tammy. Lauren Dean was a third grade teacher who became our librarian, and I worked with her for a lot of years. She wrote a sweet message for me. On the next row, let's see if I can get this zoomed in and not make you sick while I'm doing it. A quote from Carson on Downton Abbey. That was done by Kelly Andrews, who's one of the 5th grade teachers. She and I always discussed Downton Abbey the day after we watched it, so it's very sweet that she included a quote from Carson the butler. This is a hand-drawn flower that Kelly did too, so she did 2 squares for me. Lacey Shepard is another reading specialist at another school, and she was one of the teachers that we often sat with at our reading specialist meetings. So Jessica got her to do a square for me. Stacy Menifee is one of the 6th grade teachers, and she knows that I like to snuggle up with a good book. And the last square on this row was done by Jill Hickey, who's another one of the district reading specialists. We're down to the bottom row on this side. Helena is the principal at MST, and she wrote a sweet message for me. Next to that is a message from Lauren Gillum. Lauren Gillum is going to be the new reading specialist. She's been a 1st grade teacher, and she's also been a 4th grade teacher at another school. So I'm excited that she'll have the opportunity to be a reading specialist. Daniela Gonzalez, who's one of the aides, made a cute square for me. The next square was done by my friend Brenda Patterson, and not sure what happened to it to make it fade, but it really doesn't matter because it's the thought that counts. Brenda and I worked together for the last several years when we had a peanut butter drive at Christmas time, and we collected and counted and got the peanut butter all done as our school donation to the network of community ministries. And the last square on this row was done by Jenny Hogg, who is another one of the district reading specialists, and she's a big reader too, so she knows that I'm going to enjoy reading. So that's my MST memory quilt.